Welcome in, everybody. 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. Here we are getting started in what is the second week of May by the time this all hits the radio waves. Look, if you don't know who the man next to me is by now, you should. Trey Hudson joins me with Training with Trey today. Trey, how are you, man?
Hey, Sean, I'm doing excellent, sir. How are you?
Wonderful, beautiful day. As I wouldn't say as always in Wisconsin and the Midwest, but today is all right. Look, last time we talked, we started off at the beginning. We talked about the meet and greet, and we had a lot of fun discussing that. So today, Trey, what is our next training tip that we are to discuss?
So I kind of, I didn't want to lay everything in just the steps of the sale. I kind of wanted to take it in just a slightly different direction. But I had a post that I put up not too long ago, and it really got me thinking. Just because the day and age that we're in and how I think that salespeople should also be like building their business. But what I wanted to talk about today was investing in oneself.
Okay. Invest in oneself. All right. So I take this differently, right? Because I'm sort of in the entrepreneurial mindset. But when I was at a dealership, what invest in myself was that I needed to do more for me. So like for me, I had $100 bills printed with my face on it as a business card for my referral purposes so that I could give it to people and I would put it in their glove box. And as I'd walk away from giving them their new card, I'd say, hey, just left you a gift, $500 in your glove box. No big deal. Have a great day. I wouldn't make it one step the other way before someone said, you did what? And they go run over the glove box, they tear it open and they kind of do this, and I'd say, hey, perk up. Every time someone brings me that with your name on it, because I had a little spot on the back for their name, I'm going to spend it to you. Right. And it was instantaneously something that had caught on, and the rest of my sales staff hated it because Saturdays people were just coming in, handing out $100 bills. Sean's collecting half deals all over the place.
Right.
But so that's what it meant to me. Trey, when you say it, what does it mean to you?
So just give just a little bit of history. So when I first started in the car business, and it was in the late 90s, and we've talked about this before, but I just wanted to share the story quickly. But when we started, I walked on the showroom floor all excited, and I remember, it may have been in the advertisement where it said we train, but maybe I just missed it. But I remember getting there and I was just like, all right, well, so what is this training program? Like how can I become a salesperson, or get better at my skill quickly? And I remember one of my managers telling me, well, here you go. Just there's where the brochures are. They're all to the right. We got one for every model. Just start grabbing them and start going through them so that you can learn the product, right? And so it was like, that's how we train. Like, it was just like, grab some brochures, learn the product, and then go out there and like practice on the customers, right? Like every time a customer comes in, it's just like, eventually you get good, but
how many hundreds of dollars of marketing spend did you just burn through for the first 6 months, right? With no plan. Yeah.
Right. So,
but Trey, with the brochures, did they ever do the brochures to go, fillet the car and go and take it to the next level and walk through it? Or was it literally just brochures?
It was literally just the brochure. Like, if I remember correctly, like, I don't think I was ever shown how to do a proper walk around.
Oh, man.
Like, I think it was just like, if I was sitting talking to some of the veteran salespeople, like, oh, maybe you should do it this way. But I remember, years later, as I moved into a management position, I was just like just thinking about how much, if we go back and maybe, that wasn't their focus, but it was just how many dollars were wasted, as you said earlier, and just basically putting us out there and just saying, all right, sink or swim or figure it out. But, we turned a lot of customers around that probably were good business for the store. So back then, the learning curve was just slow. It was a slower learning curve. And now it just, with technology, social media, how salespeople can learn and become quicker so much faster now. It's just that, take advantage of it. And it's one of the things I say, well, what does it mean to me? It's like, take advantage of these opportunities that you have now to learn to be a better salesperson. You want to learn how to do a better walk around? Simple, Google, go to YouTube, watch some videos. You want to learn about your product? They don't even make brochures anymore. At least, our manufacturer doesn't. So, you don't have to worry about that. The whole wall
is now like glass or flowers or, other shit. It is no longer a brochure wall on the side of the dealership, dude. It does not exist, right?
Right.
Sure.
So it's like, so you want to learn about a walk around, like, I've jumped on YouTube and I've seen some of these influencers that do the vehicle walk arounds and do product reviews.
Yeah.
These individuals are really good, like really good, really talented. Like if I put them in the store now, they probably just light it up because they know everything about the product.
Dude,
So
we
I
were
watch
just
them.
talking about it in the pre-show. My guy, Jeff Hunter, like
Yes.
watching his videos, watching what he does on YouTube, it's like, dude, this is insane. Like his
Right.
level of care and knowledge and each little pinprick of information that, I didn't do shit like that. I didn't do walk-arounds like that, bro.
No,
I walked
right?
up to the Maroni sticker and was like, so this car has 287 horsepower. Isn't that fun? And it has 5-star ratings. And isn't it wonderful? And then I just quickly, as fast as I could, got out of there into
Right.
what are you looking for? What is the family? How does the interior look? Let's crack a door. You know what I mean? Like, so to that extent, I understand. So product knowledge, learning with social, that's something that, again, here, I'm going to date the both of us, but that isn't anything like, we didn't have anything like that. Okay.
No. Yeah.
I dealt with one of the first internet leads in like 1998. All right. And it came via fax machine. So just let that sink in, people.
Yeah, but it's so true. So it's just like, you can get so much, and then, sometimes but those individuals that are on those social media sites like Jeff, is just like, they're so detailed. When I'm done watching a few videos, I can do a walk around now. Like I can walk out there with confidence and give a 5-star walk around after watching a couple of these influence videos. So when I say that, to say it's like, it's really hard to have an excuse to be like, as a sales rep, and go, I give terrible walk arounds, or I don't know my product, like, or my dealership doesn't teach me how to learn the product. My story back then was we didn't have the access to the technology to learn it. We had to go to the magazines, we had to go read books. If we had access to, the internet and all these other things, I think we would just be like, we'd be consuming them because be like, this is making me better so much faster. And I just tried to stress that message to new sales reps. It's just
dude, we used to have to go get the car and driver. You remember the car and driver competitive pieces, dude? I used to have those when it applied to my brand, like on my desk, like open. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, well, while we're doing this, just, look and see what Motor Trend thinks of the new Altima, have a nice day. And it was still the same point though, right? Was to give it credence for someone to say, other than you, what was going on. But you bring up an interesting point. Because I have I think salespeople today, especially what we were talking about pre-show, right? Where it's like gross profit, take it or leave it type attitude, that doesn't make people sell very well, like ever in my experience. Right. But Trey, when they're not self-starters, right? How do they survive the car business?
Do you? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know, because I feel like you and I are like, yeah, salespeople do this, salespeople do that, which means they exist somewhere, right? So why is this happening?
Well, I think it can exist now. I mean, because I guess we could say in certain markets, in certain situations, you just literally have to be standing on the point and be that first sales rep, because the customer is like, I want that one right there, right? There's not a lot of, in some cases, there's not a lot of selling that goes into that, but
it still happens, dude. It still happens, because I was telling a story on the show a couple of weeks ago. A good friend of mine shopping for cars. She went to 7 dealerships over 2 Saturdays, bro, with no intent to buy a car. Okay, 0 intent to buy a car. She just didn't know. First adult car, you know what I'm saying? Like, just bought her house. Now her husband and I are going to buy a car. We don't know what we like. We want to go drive things. And they went, and Trey, the stories. It's why I made a podcast about it, right? Because they were just so bad. This girl did not receive 1 walk around at a new car brand. Not 1. She was throwing the keys 4 out of 7 times. The other 3 times they went with her, they wouldn't shut the up. So the whole time she's just like, what? Oh my God, and like overwhelmed by the data puking that's happening over her shoulder. So there's all these issues. So what is it as a manager today, when you say it to a saleswoman, what steps do you take to convey to them what you mean when you say invest in yourself?
So one of the things that we talk about is just like, where do you want to be? So it's like, one of the things is like, when you're laying out your goals, it's like, where do I want to be? And then it's like, okay, what's the plan of action to get there? Because really, as being the manager, we're the head coach. And so part of the head coaching is this, okay, let's see if we can put you in a position to be successful. But let me help you by telling me the things that you need help with. So, I mean, that's one of the ways that we can solve that. It's just, but to the other side of that, it's just like using those we do training in our stores. I know a lot of dealerships do that. We try to train 6 days a week.
What does it look like? Give me an example, bro. Throw me out like a Wednesday. What are we doing on a Wednesday?
Yeah, one of the things we like to do is we call it our Power 15. So we do a meeting every morning with the opening crew. That meeting generally runs from 8 to 8:15, sometimes 8:20. But we do it every single day, Monday through Friday. And basically what we do is we're going to go over steps of the sale. We're going to go over processing. We're going to go over processes. We're going to go over inventory updates. We're going to go over like what used car vehicles we took in from the previous day. We're also, once that meeting is done, we're also doing the lot walk, an old school lot walk, even though there may be 15 new cars out there because, this current situation. I mean, we're still walking the lot. Not only are we touching the new cars, we're also touching the used cars that we took from the day before. But the reason why I see power in having an early morning meeting is A, the sales staff gets there on time. B, it starts the day with purpose. So for the leadership team and from the employees, it's like, hey, we're already sitting down. We're already talking about our plan of action and things that we need to work on. Now, these meetings aren't the ones where you go into and we're going in there with a hammer, like, just ready and just, bludgeon the whole scene. Like,
no, my managers used to say that for Saturday morning for whatever reason. But yeah, for sure. I'm with you there. I'm with you.
Yeah. So it's like going, let's talk about these things in a professional manner so that when guests come into the dealership, we take care of them. Because what we don't want to happen, and granted, things are going to happen, but it's like the story you told earlier, is like where, customers went in, thrown keys. No one knew how to do a walk around, not familiar with the product. Like, even though it's easier to sell a car now than it has been than probably ever before, at least in my lifetime, we still want to be prepared just in case tomorrow, the world just crumbled and all of a sudden we got to go back to old skills. So we want to make sure that, our employees are prepared. So those are some of the things we do. And then of course we have our Friday walk arounds. We have a feature Friday, like we like to post on social media, where we have a meter of our sales staff would go out, do highlight a feature on the vehicle. We get that up. The good part about that is, sure, we allow, customers that view our, our social media to see a cool feature of the product, but the salesperson we're grabbing, they also have to know the product. And so that's a great opportunity for them to familiarize themselves with the product too. So
yeah, and it's cool because it's snippets, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this like long drawn out thing where you go through and it doesn't have to be perfect. There's nothing about what you're going to experience in most of your life that is perfect. And so, when I started off, man, we were with the dealership that I worked for, you got started, you basically worked from the BDC. And that's what they did. They brought you into the BDC. You took leads for, if you were a salesperson before, like 1 or 2 weeks, but during those 1 or 2 weeks, they started to really heavily train. And we'd go out as a group and you stand around and the manager would be like, all right, first person up. And you'd get through the walk around. He'd stop you and say, hold on. Why'd you go right versus left? He didn't say you should have gone right or left. He just simply asked why you had done it. And people started to say, well, I'm right-handed, or, like, I just thought this was the way that made sense. And he said, no, let's take a step back. Now try it this way. And when you have that on, that the whole idea, right, of ending at the driver door, right? Closing the door, walking around, right? Or even the silent appraisal of a car, those things are lost. And it sometimes it pains me, I feel like I'm like people call me like a baseball purist, but I feel like I'm a car guy purist, where I'm just like, dude, you remember the silent walk around? You remember your NADA book in your back pocket? Do you remember that shit? That's when we were having to work harder without the advantages. But Trey, with today's salesperson, the opportunity of social, because we hear this a lot with our training product on the social side. Salespeople go, nah, not me, can't be in front of a camera, not comfortable, which always gets me thinking, like, yeah, then how'd you pick car sales? Like, I know it sounds weird to just assume anyone can be in front of a camera, but Trey, do you run into that with your salespeople where they're like, I'm good?
Yeah, I mean, not only do we run into salespeople, I run into with myself. I have to give if we're being honest, every time we get ready to do one of these sit downs, I give myself a pep talk, for like the last 30 minutes.
So that explains the 5 minutes after, right?
Yeah, it's always 5 minutes because
you're breathing, you're centering.
That's right. Yeah, because I'm like, I got to get on camera, and what are people going to think? Like, I totally get it, and this completely takes me out of my comfort zone. But I'm enjoying them because I'm like, okay, this is how we coach this. But it's like, here's a way to get better. But to answer your question, because I sort of did answer the question, is like, you just have to do it, right? Like if you want to get better at something, you just have to do it. And then if you do it and you realize what generally happens is when it's over, you're like, you know what? Wasn't that bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, I assume when we're done here, you don't need like an extra 20 minutes to like, recenter yourself. I assume you can just go about your day. But it's funny because, having done this show now for, my gosh, I don't know, this is going on like 5 years, like 270 episodes. I've learned that I'm kind of unique in the way, like I could roll out of bed and just be sitting here right now with you, or I could be back from, a 3-hour workout and be here and be in front of the camera because it's what I do, but I'll be honest, when we started this show, it was just me and a mic in my office. I never had a hat on. Sometimes if it was too hot, I never had a shirt on. And I would just sit here and I would record episodes. I'd have the most fun time and I wouldn't worry about anything. And the first time we kicked the camera up, you got me like this going, oh, and I'm like, oh my God, a camera's on, like, holy shit, I'm not ready, but you get there. You get there in time. You have to start somewhere. Are your salespeople, when it comes to the training, is the salespeople, are they excited, Trey? Are they, because look, I mean, there were two kinds of trainings when I was a kid, right? There were the training that we put on as a team where everyone sort of talked, right? But then there was the OEM training and those dudes showed up and you were just like, no, I don't want to do this. What's the attitude amongst your salespeople when these trainings come up?
So I think I answered that question in two ways. So I think one, if you can keep the training fun, then I think you're going to run into more buy-in from your team.
That's what my guys on Service Drive Live say. They always say they make it fun for their service guys to be in a meeting or to be in a training. Everyone stays more engaged. So, all right, correct. Have fun, number one.
And then also have a structure. I think sometimes we just pull up and we're like, hey, we wake up and we're like, oh, that's right, we need to do a training today. And then we just run and grab everybody and we're like, all right, grab some paper. We're going to train, right? And it's just like, oh, okay. Well, we're not going to get much buy-in because we're not prepared. So it's like, and that's the second part.
Yeah.
Because I used to have a manager that worked for a long time and told me, if you're going to have a meeting, be prepared. He's like, don't go into a meeting and just waste the individual's time that's going to be in that meeting. And I've always remembered that, like I've always. So whenever we call a meeting, I try my best as an individual, and it's not always going to be that way, but to at least go in with a plan of action, what I want to speak about, so that meeting has flow, and it's generally a pretty fun meeting because of it. But the second part of that, let's just say you're a sales rep and you're working in a dealership and they don't train, right? So we're just going to say, hey, I found a spot, but I enjoy this. I enjoy this company. I enjoy my managers. I enjoy the product, but maybe they just don't have the best training program. Cool. You can find that information online. Like all the things that we're talking about right now, how to overcome, a video presentation, how to overcome fears, like how to
be a better public
overcome
speaker.
Objections, like how to do all these things. You can find it online. Start with Google if you have to. And if you really want to invest in yourself, there's plenty of trainers, and you'll find them on this app that are well at what they do, and they can easily, invest in their programs. They can teach you how to be a really good sales rep. So what I'm trying to say with that is just don't rely on just the store to become better. Use the other outlets and tools that you have, at your disposal, so that you can become, a more complete player.
That's a shout out to my boy, Chris Martinez. Trey, if you're not familiar with Chris Martinez, epic salesman, great guy, running a Jackie Cooper Automotive Group up in Oklahoma. Used to be a huge Toyota store, doing like 500 a month back in Texas. But Chris Martinez, he has these real cool flashcards. And it's just little flashcards. They're just a little fun, have fun, sit down, how to overcome an objection, boom. And that is, this dude's selling them on Amazon for like whatever it is, $9-10. This is what the things that we didn't have, these sort of miniature gig economies that existed when we sold cars. Here's another perfect example. Jeff Larson. Okay. Trey Hudson. Again, don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Larson, but
I am familiar with Jeff.
He sells billions. He sells at Billions Toyota in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Right. This dude is overqualified to sell cars. He could easily be a manager. He could easily be a general manager. He sells cars because he loves it. Mm-hmm. And he's got a book of business a year long. He has referral after referral. And I told him the other day when we talked on the phone, he called me to say about one of the shows. He was, he loved the show or whatever. And I said, hey, I love your model, because someday when I think about retiring, I think about doing what you're doing.
Mhm.
I think about going to find the most beautiful place that I want to live, finding a dealership and going, I'll do this now. And I'll just
Right.
sell cars because,
Right.
because the advantages are, they're infinite. It feels like, Trey, where to get information on technology, where to learn about customers, how to get trained. You said it right here. Go to the internet. Like,
Go.
what an unbelievable opportunity. But Trey, let me ask you honestly, in the downtime of the dealership, which there is, we know,
Mhm. Mhm.
you think that's what salespeople are doing?
No.
No.
I mean, I have to, just answer it. I think here's the thing. I think the good salespeople, absolutely. The ones that, if you go into a store and you went to the high performers, yes, they are. They're keeping busy. They're working on their product. They're doing their follow-ups. They're trying to figure out where their next deal is going to come from. I think, a lot of this, you find the middle producers or people that are producing below in their downtime, they're on videos or searching the internet, but not for the right tools, right? Instead of them looking for things to make them better. Or here's
Facebook.
another one. Instead of putting the positive, we talk about this, but, there's a lot of negativity on social media, and so if you keep, flipping through it, then that's all you'll see. And so I try to remind my staff, find the positive stuff. Like look for some positive news, look for something upbeat that's going to get you pumped up and get you motivated, like to come into work, because that's where it starts. And then of course, us as a management staff, it's our job to try, it's our job to keep our sales staff motivated, keep them engaged. And so that challenge is on us too, to do better. Because sometimes we allow people to fail and we just say, well, you know what, I'm just going to give up on, as Joe Verdi would say, like 5-car Betty, right? Like, she's a, 5-car Betty is just not gonna work out. And it's just like, are we sure? Like, do we really, put our resources into this individual? So
Yes.
I can look at it from both ways.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Do we put in the time? Do we, before we go ahead and 5-car Betty, is it Betty's fault, or is it our fault? Is there some shared difference? And I think it's fair to say that some people will get it right away, others will not.
Mhm.
And even after you get it, you'll still go through cold streaks. You'll still have bad days where you don't get the job done, and it's okay. It's, the
Correct.
worst thing you can do is take yesterday into tomorrow, right?
Right.
And
Right.
let what happened to you. We say it in baseball all the time. You strike out, don't take it in the field. If you have an error in the field, don't bring it to your next at bat. These things don't help you, right? They don't. And you're right, dude. You can scroll social media, you'll find more negative than positive. But you should definitely seek out the positive. I wish that more salespeople would take that time of investment. When we were younger, we used to have to do like the portal trainings. Do you remember, with the manufacturers, right? You have to go through, and then you have a quiz at the end, and then one salesman would get all the answers and give it to the rest of us. And
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, we went, we listened, we learned. That wasn't necessarily how I learned myself. I learned from being in it. I didn't learn from the computer screen. I learned from going out to the car, touching the interior, it was the same thing when I sold men's clothing. I was a fabric guy. I wanted to feel and know
Right.
and see fit and feel fit and go through those things, right? So we don't do enough of it. Trey, as we kind of bring this full circle and we talk about the investment in oneself,
Right.
as a manager, how do you invest in yourself?
Well, by doing a lot of the same things that we talked about earlier, like, so I just recently hired like a performance coach, and I thought it was pretty crazy. And I was just like, I see individuals on LinkedIn that go over this stuff, and it's just like, but do I need a coach? And then you start thinking about it, and then you're like, hey, you're looking at these star athletes, and what do the majority of star athletes have?
Oh, they have like 3 coaches, but yeah.
Yeah, they have coaches, right? And we're talking about the best of the best.
Elite.
So they still have somebody that's pushing them. They have somebody that's challenging them. They have somebody that's holding them accountable. Because I think the problem is sometimes we want to hold ourselves accountable, but it's hard because, you can always, when someone else holds you accountable. So that's one thing I invested in. As we talked about earlier, I like to look at things that are going to motivate me and excite me. So I'm looking for the positive. I'm looking for entrepreneurs giving advice. I'm looking for salespeople that are doing really good in their craft, like the Jeff Larsons. I'm looking at their material, like how can I get better? Because I'm learning a lot from watching his videos. And so, and I'm Googling, like if I, just recently there was an objection that came up and I was like, I don't think I gave the best answer to the team. I went and Googled and I went through and read the best answers and I went back to the sales team with it. And I told them, I said, I didn't necessarily like my answer that I gave on this, but I said, this is what I found. And we started drilling on it. And so it's like, I think, and then the last part of that, I think to become a better manager is just to realize that I don't have all the answers and that I continuously are going to always have to work on my craft to get better. So, and my sales staff, I mean, if you have a really good sales staff, I think most managers will tell you they're going to push you anyway. They're going to force you to get better because they just want to run, they want to produce, and they don't want you to get in their way. They want you to be able to coach them and lead them. So they keep me on my toes 100%.
Yeah, the team pushes the coach a lot, right? I mean, I think you can hear that of the Michael Jordan stories and how Phil Jackson became a better coach because that's what Michael would push for, and that's how that attitude would go, and it would roll all the way downhill, but it started at the team side and sort of pushed its way uphill, which is very, very impressive. Trey, give me the last piece of advice here. What piece of advice do you have for closing this out for salespeople to invest in themselves? I think I know the answer. I think we've already said it, but what is the one piece of advice you have for a salesperson to invest in themselves?
I think the one piece of advice I can give them for is kind of like what we talked about when you brought up the video. I think a lot of the time, the reason why people don't invest or the reason why they don't push themselves is because they're afraid of failure. And I think that's the life. You go to most people and you ask why you weren't successful, they run off excuses like, oh, it was this, it was that. But a lot of times those excuses that you receive have nothing to do with the individual. Right. And so I think as we start to take more accountability as individuals and say, you know what, I'm responsible to be successful. And so that would be the message that I would want to leave it with is like, hey, you, the person that you look at in the mirror every single day, you're responsible for how successful you're going to be. And you're only going to get, as much as you put into it. So just don't always rely on the people around you to push you. You have to push yourself.
Be responsible for your success, man. I absolutely love it. And it brings me up to a point where you talk about the videos, sometime this year, we just uncovered an archive of videos that I did in 2013 when we started this company. I don't know how my business partner found them. He found them somewhere stocked away. And we're going to start releasing them on Thursdays for our Today in 5 Minute History, because I want people to see just how bad these videos were. And I'm telling you, they were bad. And they were bad because I tried to rehearse every line. I tried to have scripts for every video, for everything. And when it went wrong, man, I would beat myself up like I had just struck out in the World Series. And I'm sitting in office by myself and I still got overly pissed off. And so, yeah, guys and gals, let me just tell you, this doesn't all happen naturally. I mean, it's a little bit easier because I'm a pretty, out there, I don't really care what people think of me type guy, but I'll tell you, it isn't always perfect. Training with Trey, man. I absolutely love this segment, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on and doing it with me again. And I look forward to doing it again next time.
Yeah, this is fun. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Sean.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad it helps you break you out of your comfort zone too. I'm learning that about you as we go. So
absolutely.
Maybe next show you won't need. Maybe you need like a 2-minute pep talk. You know what I'm saying? We'll see.
Hey, before you know it, there'll be LED lights, microphone in front of me, and
I mean, look, I'm waiting, bro. Just let me know if you need me to send you something. I got a couple of extra mics. We can get it working for you. All right, everybody. All right. That's Trey Hudson. I'm Sean Welsh. This was Training with Trey on 5 Minutes with Sean, maybe 10. Thank you all for joining us. Have yourselves a wonderful week. And next week on the show, I'm going to be back in the saddle by myself, and I'm going to be talking to you about a brand new metric that I don't know that people track, but I know it's one that I care about, and I look forward to hearing what you all think about. Have a great week, and thanks a lot for joining us.